There are a few games that employ moral choices in a manner that a lot of people would find compelling. It's been a joke for quite a while how games with moral choices only ever let you choose between Mother Teresa or baby eating with no apparent middle ground. I think this is because a lot of games add moral choices for the sake of letting the player feel like they have some degree of freedom, even when every choice is pre-planned by the writers and few games ever do anything with the concept. Mass Effect sort of deviated from this, where in every game you have a set goal and some choices are just naturally more suited to that goal than others, so players who think about their moral choices naturally end up with a combination of Paragon and Renegade decisions under their belt. Knights of the Old Republic 2 takes it really far by crafting the moral choices around the idea of you thinking about what you're doing, and throwing scorn on you if you don't. If you make your decisions entirely around which one gives you light side or dark side points because that's the playthrough you've arbitrarily decided you were going to do before you started, you're almost guaranteed to get shit from Kreia for it.
Are psychotic urges all that drives you?
Never have I felt the rush of battle. So quick and sudden.
I am not speaking to you, slave. Be silent. I would examine the situation as a whole, all of its ties to the Force, and then decide which string to pull, not sever them all at once. Such crude methods grant you nothing. Perhaps, but not from those who matter. Oh, I grow weary of this. Perhaps time will allow my words to take root, if your common sense will not permit it.
A lot of games give you these strange choices to kill random people for a larf, but rarely does it ever stop and ask, and what did we even gain by doing this? There's a third game that presents moral choices without being completely apolitical about the entire concept. Legion. Legion presented a tough challenge for Blizzard, particularly in fixing problems created by the Burning Crusade. Back in the days of the Burning Crusade, Blizzard's approach to a coherent story was somewhere around Steven Universe. It made no sense, we were never entirely certain why we were doing any of this, and the villains kept changing on a whim. During the entire campaign in Outland, you're simultaneously fighting the Burning Legion and the Illidari, and the Illidari were far more prevalent in Outland than the Legion. Despite being called the Burning Crusade, the actual Burning Crusade is notable by its absence, and every raid with the exception of 2 are centered around disrupting the Illidari's hold on Outland. By the time we get to the Black Temple, all of the focus is on Illidan and his demon hunters. We disrupt their efforts with the help of Altruis, a demon hunter traitor, and help Akama take back his temple from Illidan, who believes that the Illidari are no better than the Legion. But there was never a proper answer for why we were doing this. Illidan wanted to destroy the Legion. We also want to destroy the Legion. You'd think we'd be allies, but all of your allies, from Malfurion to Maiev to Akama to the freaking Naru, all say Illidan needs to go down. What the fuck is going on? Well, years later, Blizzard admitted that the Burning Crusade was a failure as far as story goes. The entire expansion was working backward from the premise, let's have Illidan be a raid boss because that would be cool, and that's why half the expansion doesn't make any sense. Blizzard corrected this with both Legion and the Illidan book, elaborating on Illidan's plans in Outland and his role for the Demon Hunters. But here's the hook. It doesn't give us a reason why he had to be stopped. The implicit reason was that there isn't one, and the people directing the adventurers were blinded by their hatred of Illidan using fel magic to fight the Legion. Regardless of what class you play, one major questline is very unsubtle in telling you that your raid on the Black Temple was a huge fuck-up, and is potentially the reason the Legion is even capable of invading Azeroth again. This is most emphasized with the Demon Hunter, whose entire starting zone is one big trap. First, you're given the choice to sacrifice a Demon Hunter to open a portal on Mardoom. You can choose either yourself or the NPC who gives you the quest. Of course, if you choose yourself, you could just run back to your corpse and continue on. If you sacrifice the NPC, you did that for nothing. One of these choices is undeniably the right one, and you're expected to know which one it is based on the fact that players running back to their corpses after death is a common mechanic you've most certainly encountered by now. At the end of the quest on Mardoom, the Demon Hunters are held captive by the Wardens, and 10 years later, they're let out during the Legion's invasion of Azeroth. Despite expressing a hatred for the Demon Hunters, Maiev doesn't hesitate in letting them out because of how crucial they are to defeating the Burning Legion. Maiev understands what the bigger threat is and will not turn away potential allies. And the Illidari understand the Legion is the bigger threat as well, which is why taking revenge on the Wardens for imprisoning them doesn't even cross their minds. As you go through the vault, stumbling over the scenery because 10 years of imprisonment has left you stiff, and not because I can't control this game worth a piss, I promise, all of them remark on how desperate things must be if the Wardens are letting you out. All of them recognize the importance of defeating the Burning Legion. Well, almost all of them. Altruis has returned. Remember him? He and Kain are among the first people you break out of prison, and they immediately start arguing with each other. Altruis is the only demon hunter who is surprised you're helping the Wardens, considering they hate demon hunters as much as they hate the Legion. We're gonna come back to this, but this is a critically important part of the demon hunter's story. At the end of this leg of the story, Kain and Altruis start fighting, and you're expected to choose one as your second in command. Kain is loyal to Illidan and hates Altruis for betraying them and sending foolish adventurers to kill their brothers. Altruis is convinced that Illidan was becoming no better than the Legion. Sound familiar? Before you can make a decision between the two and their ideals, there's another person to talk to, Corvus Bloodthorn. Corvus is the only second opinion you get in the entire story. She's watched her people be butchered by the Legion and seen firsthand the horrors they will unleash. In fact, she's the one who yells for the Illidari to avenge Illidan when they return to the Black Temple. She chides Kain and Altruis for behaving like children, and then instructs you to look into the pools of reflection to remember why you took the Fel into your veins in the first place. This shows you a memory of when she asked Illidan that very same question. What makes them any different from the monsters they fight? After taking part in the destruction of a Pit Lord, Illidan answers her question as bluntly as can be. The Legion will stop at nothing to destroy Azeroth, and Corvus recognizes that they will sacrifice everything to save it. And this is what makes them different. This is why the Illidari do not harbor resentment toward the Wardens for their imprisonment, or toward the rest of Azeroth for treating them like outcasts before the Legion invaded. They became what they are specifically because they would not sit idly by while those on Azeroth waited to become the demon's prey. They view the Shatari assaulting the Black Temple as a nuisance more than a threat. Kain hates Altruis for betraying and murdering his teachers, their fellow Illidari, but the adventurers that Altruis sent to actually do the dirty work? They don't get so much as a passing mention. And that makes sense. The adventurers, meaning you, didn't know better. Altruis should have. The game has very explicitly funneled you towards selecting Kain as your second in command. You can pick Altruis and take his philosophy that Illidan cannot be trusted, but Illidan still returns. He still regains control of the Illidari, and he still fights alongside the armies of Legionfall. Altruis' objection barely gets a passing mention. To further drive the point home, non-demon hunters see Kain in the Illidari stand, making him the de facto canonical choice. The only meaningful impact Altruis has on the story at all is whether or not Akama comes with you willingly or not, and that's entirely predicated on the fact that Altruis doesn't like Illidan. There's no actual convincing done, it's just, hey, no Illidan? Great! Except the rest of the expansion is still extremely unsubtle in telling you that trying to oust Illidan in the first place was a fucking stupid idea. The theme is simple. Retaining our humanity is worthless if it ends with us dying. And the Demon Hunters embody this both figuratively and literally. There's the question of what is to be done with the Demon Hunters when the Legion is defeated, but if we don't actually get to that point, then it's completely moot. There's another example of this going on with the Death Knights. At the end of the Order Hall campaign, the Lich King instructs you to raise Tyrion Fordring from the dead to continue the fight against the Legion. And when they get this order, nearly every Death Knight can't believe what they just heard. Tyrion was someone they respected, somebody who had earned his eternal rest. Desecrating his grave, raising him from the dead? All of them recognize and admit that this is horrific.
Tyrion Fordring was one of the greatest champions this world has known. If we do this, there will be a price to pay. I will obey, Deathlord, but know this. Should we go through with this, there will be no turning back.
But they go through with it anyway, because the threat of the Legion is too great to hold back on any potential allies. So they go to Light's Hope Chapel determined but not happy about what they have to do. That mission fails, and Darion Mograine sacrificed to get the Ebon Blade out safely makes him a prime candidate for the Four Horsemen in Tyrion's place. But the fact that the Death Knights were willing to do this, even in spite of everything in their body telling them it was wrong, is what the overall theme of Legion is about. As somebody on the WoW forums pointed out, this isn't some paltry war of factions or murlocs. This is the Burning Legion. Lives will be lost and sacrifices are required if you even want to stand a chance. Demons don't give a shit about your innocence. They take everything and everyone. Against such an enemy, the only chance of even fighting them is to be like them, to see from their point of view and use it against them. For that reason, orders like the Paladins, Priests, and others who aren't willing to sacrifice everything are doomed to be destroyed. Their faith will give them a moment to breathe, but they will be annihilated in the end. For that reason, Demon Hunters and Death Knights are the only ones who can actually stand against the Legion, for they do not have such a weakness. Loyalty was the basis of the pact the Demon Hunters made when they became what they are. The Order is based on achieving a goal at any cost for the good of Azeroth. Kain understands it, the other Illidari understand it. Altura spat on that pact and allowed his own beliefs to cloud his judgment. Akama spat on that pact, holding the illusion of the sanctity of Karabor over the destruction of the Legion. Maiev spat on that pact, blinded by a hatred of Fel over the Legion itself. The blind desire to be pure, to be without corruption, doesn't stop the Legion from invading, and the characters worth respecting are the ones who recognize that it's time to stop drawing such arbitrary lines in the sand when Armageddon is literally banging down your door. You get to make choices, but those choices are hollow. You already know what the right decision is, and choosing the alternative in spite of everything you're already shown nets you scorn, mockery, and admonishment from literal gods. It's not a moral choice, it's the world's easiest decision, and some people are still determined to get it wrong. See ya!